Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Flux Dev Meeting, May 28th, 2026. Um, well, um, I guess we don't have many updates in terms of releases today. I think I already gave an update on the last patch release where we released a ton of fixes and finally moved Helm controller and Sword controller out of the Flux fork uh, back into upstream with Helm 4.2. So yeah, that's very good. We are working on a new project under the Flux org recently called Flux Mirror. So uh, yeah, we've found an opportunity that there's a project that many people were relying on is no longer viable to be used. So we stepped up and decided to create this new project under Flux CD, under CNCF with Apache license, which is the Flux Mirror. So Flux Mirror is for mirroring OCI artifacts and also Helm charts. So you can copy container images from one registry to another. You can do that for Flux OCI artifacts, for Helm OCI charts. You can also mirror Helm HTTP charts from a Helm HTTP repository to OCI as well. And it has some nice features of filtering by some version with limits. We also implemented this min age field in your configuration for mirroring, which checks at the signed timestamp from from attestation and provenance. So I think when cosine signs an artifact, it adds a timestamp, and this timestamp is signed. So because the OCI spec does not give you a timestamp for when a tag was pushed, right? So if you list the tags in a repo, in OCI repo, it's just the tags. There's no metadata about each tag. That's how the OCI spec works, right? So to overcome this, we are relying on the signatures. The cosine signatures, they do have a timestamp that is signed. So it's a strong attestation of when the artifact was created. So this is because people are requesting features that help solve supply chain security problems, right? Like people are wanting to um, delay when they ingest and use new versions of their dependencies, right? Because we have been seeing these attacks that push new versions of some dependency and etc. So, uh, like people want to, oh, okay, I'm only gonna accept a new version when it's at least 2 weeks old, because in 2 weeks is enough time for the attack to be uncovered and fixed by the maintainers and everything. So we got a request for this in OCI repository source controller, and unfortunately we can do that on the controller side. Uh, it does not fit well with the GitOps model, but it does fit well in this new tool we created, which is a CLI for you for helping you to ingest and vendor OCI artifacts that you depend on. So our recommendation is don't try to we can fix this in the controllers, but we can give this tool that has all of these policies that you can apply, and you run it on a schedule. You run it on a cron job, in a CI job or something. And uh, that too is a place where we can implement these kinds of things, but not in a Flux controller. So a recommendation for the user who asked for this mean age feature in source controller OCR repository, we pointed them towards this new tool we created called Flux Mirror that can do this. Um,
Could you say the name again? Flux Mirror?
Flux Mirror.
Cool.
Yeah, yeah. So
D
this is
did you
this.
say that it was a one-time command that the user runs to sync things, or is it like a more continuous thing that you set up once and then it'll continuously keep mirroring any new images, anything that gets pushed to one?
You have to run the command every time to sync, but you
Okay.
can run this command like in a cron job in a Kubernetes cluster, or like in a GitHub action with a cron schedule or something like that. So yeah, it's very nice because it's declarative, like everything else in Flux. We have this declarative configuration. You write this YAML that specifies all the artifacts that you want to mirror. So the source and the destination, you have authentication features built into it, for example, to integrate with OIDC for the different CI platforms like GitHub Actions, Forgejo Actions, and GitLab CI. So, uh, and that's essentially what it does. You write this small YAML configuration file, you do flux mirror sync config.yaml, and it copies everything. So, and this is the second official plugin that we have for the plugin RFC, right? So in Flux 2.9, we are releasing this feature in the Flux CLI, which is the plugin system. So that you basically can invoke trusted binaries from the Flux CLI. So for example, today you do if you use so today we have two, right? Flux Mirror is the second one. The first one was Flux Schema that we have talked about a few times already. It has a similar, I think it has a similar declarative config API, if I'm not mistaken as well. I don't remember doing so many things that it's hard to keep track of everything we ship these days, right? So, um, but these two, Flux Schema and Flux Mirror, are the first two official CLI plugins that we have. Both are under the Flux CD GitHub org. And when Flux 2.9 comes out with this feature in the CLI, you will be able to do uh, instead of flux dash mirror command, you'll be able to do flux space mirror command, right? Or the same for flux schema, right? Like instead of flux dash schema some command, you can do flux space schema some command. And it's obviously not just this tiny UX, uh, very tiny UX improvement, right? Calling the plugin from the Flux CLI. It's also something to help large organizations that have a tight security controls on what binaries their developers and engineers are allowed to use in their machines, right? Like it's if you have to depend on many tools, it's like to get approval for these tools is kind of hard. And even though, yes, the plugins are separate binaries, they are all, uh, at least this official, these first two, right? They share the same release workflows and attestation, right? We have now, it's been a while since we standardized our GitHub workflows to release all the Flux controllers and to enforce all sorts of uh, security and compliance controls and a uniform process for releasing the Flux controllers and everything. We also have one of those now in this github.com/fluxcity/GHA workflows. This is the repo where all the workflows live, and the controller repos call them from there. And now also have a GitHub workflow in this repo for releasing the plugins that we maintain under the Flux CD org. So both of these plugins share this workflow. So when you're using these plugins in Flux, uh, it it's this trade-off of we can't ship everything that we want under the Flux CLI, right? Like we have to, it's already it has like I think it has hundreds of commands at this point, and it's a ton of things. So you can't put everything there, but we want to continue shipping useful tools for our users. So it helps us do this decoupling and
You can't ship
separation.
breaking changes in the CLI, but if the plugin's version number is less than 1.0, then you could still ship breaking changes in the plugin.
Yeah, yeah. So there's a number of reasons for why it's good for us to separate big chunks of things that we want to implement for users under other repos and independent projects that also at the same time share the release process and security properties that we enforce as a CNCF project. So yeah, we're very excited about this. It's definitely going to be, well, we have so many things coming in Flux 2.9, and we're gonna need a series of blog posts. We're planning to, like, there's just like with the amount of attention we get from someone reading a blog post these days, there's just no way that we can write everything, all the nice things we implemented in a Flux release, right, in a single blog post. Nobody will read it if we put everything there. So we're planning to break down the release blog post. I mean, we're obviously gonna have the same main blog post for for each release, of course, but we are also gonna have even maybe before the release comes out, we're gonna introduce things that will come out in the release, like in the weeks ahead and things like that. But yeah, we users should expect a lot of content coming their way in the Flux blog about the nice things we are implementing. Um, yeah, and this release uh, again is packed. We implemented that feature in Receiver we discussed last week. We have now complete secretless authentication for Receiver. So you can use the OIDC provider of your CI platform. Uh, just like those features I was just talking about in Flux Mirror, you can use, we invented this command Flux Trigger Receiver. So in this command integrates with OIDC and GitHub Actions for Gejo, GitLab. Uh, it it makes it easy to trigger a receiver and in a secure way. In my opinion, it's like something that simplifies a lot the setup required for using the receiver API in Flux, which is something that users have always complained about, rightfully so. Uh, and I think, of course, no, probably nobody uses generic, right? The generic receiver because it has no security. Like it's like exposing a knob in the internet for anybody in the world to trigger your customizations. It's crazy, right? So you have to I would only advise you to use an alternative that has some security and that before this feature was like generic HMAC, for example, which is what I was using in my workflows, but that relies on a shared secret and sharing a secret within your CI and CD is a nightmare. In my setup, at least, it was like one of the things that was complicating it the most. And after implemented this feature in Notification Controller, uh, I'm already using it in my clusters. I'm using a build from main and
A
I
shared a
patch.
shared secret is not so bad. It's on the hierarchy of maturity, right? It's much better than the URL as a secret because the URL is logged everywhere and that's not
Yeah, no, of
secret.
course. I mean, in
But
security, yeah, of
yeah,
course. Like in security terms of protecting the endpoint to trigger resources, yes, it's much better than nothing because a secret URL is not a defense, right? Let's be honest here. Uh, Hiding a URL is not a security control, a security feature. So yes, a shared secret is much stronger. But why is it bad? Is the setup. The setup is horrible. Having to share a secret between your CI and CD, if you want to do it without duplication, you want to do it without manual work, it's a nightmare. So uh
it's not
and
so bad if you have a secret manager and external secrets, but that's all complicated to set up and it's still not an identity in the
it,
end.
yeah,
It's not a
like
protected thing.
yeah, like
It's shared.
you have an entire new component to solve the problem. Like it's obviously complexity, right? Like if you need external secrets for this, uh, now you don't, right? With OIDC, you don't need. You can have a secure authentication for triggering your receivers without secrets management. No secrets, right? So, yeah. That's another thing we're gonna have a blog post for, and there's a number of other things that many people are working on. Deeply worked on the field ignore rules, which is awesome. We want this for a long time. This is gonna be good for AI users, um, for vertical auto scaling. We have Git SSH commit verification coming. We have um, improvements on our cosine integration in Source Controller to use more of the features provided by SigStar. You can provide your SigStar bundle and everything. You have more power to configure the cryptographic material required for verifying your OCI artifacts in your um, um, air-gapped uh, environments, for example. And we also have AWS code commit authentication via workload identity as well. And yeah, but so another packed release. You can already see 10 more patch releases coming. Flux 2.9.9.
What are the dates for 2.9? Is it end of June?
Yep, exactly. Yeah. So yeah, we're gonna probably gonna go spend the last week of June working on the release. Um, yeah, exciting things on the horizon. And yeah, I guess that's it in terms of updates of roadmap and news about the project. So I guess we can open for discussing other things. So
Not too much from my side. I think I'm just waiting on that the customized
yeah,
controller PR
yeah,
review. And I
yeah.
have to
I'll do
work on
this
the
next week.
CLI. Yeah, yeah. And
Yeah,
I have to work on a change in the CLI for the Flux diff customization. Those are the two things on my
right.
plate. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna resume the reviews next week. We are in London this week.
Mm.
Stefan, Lee, and myself. We're in London this week, so
Okay,
that's
no
why
worries.
we're
Yeah, there's still time, so we're okay.
yeah,
And I think the majority of the implementation is in this is just wiring it up with customized controller, not as, yeah.
yeah. I already took a look. So yeah, we're gonna ship this next week for sure.
Sounds good.
Uh, cool. Mm, cool. Anything else from your side?
No, actually, no, that's it. Thanks.
Cool. Kingdom, Augie?
Nothing from my side.
Just that the KubeCon CFP deadline is in a few days for anyone who's looking to submit talks for the main track. The maintainer track is not for some time. There's, I think, July 18th or something like that is the next deadline.
Nice.
Out of curiosity, presentations that have been given at KubeCon in Amsterdam, will they also be accepted for presentation in November? Do you know?
I
What do you
think it's
mean?
up to the review committee. They have
Oh, okay.
discretion on things like that. But I would expect usually they won't accept the same talk for two conferences,
All right.
in my experience at least.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think one of the questions that they asked during submission was the same talk given in the last year or something, is
Oh,
one
Have
of
you
the
okay.
have you
questions.
presented this talk before? That
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
not only that it's been presented at KubeCon, but they want
yeah.
novel, original things that are, and I think they occasionally you'll get something that's allowed to be presented at a side event and also the main event. I've seen that before, but usually not. Um, usually not.
Hmm. Yeah. We may have an update that makes this into a entirely new presentation, but just for the heck of it, I thought I'd ask to see if we can save some resources by not having to go through preparing for the presentation and the collateral like videos and stuff. Okay. No, thanks.
Okay, if there's nothing else for the agenda, we could end the recording.
All right.
All right.
Nice to see you all.
See you. Bye.
See you
Bye.
next week. Bye.